A retired US Navy pilot becomes entangled in a passionate affair with his friend's beautiful wife, oblivious to the deadly consequences ahead. Jay Cochran, a US Navy pilot, expertly maneuvers his aircraft over the arid desert landscape near the Mexican border. His best friend Madero sits behind him, serving as the plane's radio intercept officer. He then jokingly asks Madero if he's ever shown him his cabin, despite having done so countless times before. As the plane dips dangerously low, Madero fights against his motion sickness. In an attempt to comfort his friend, Jay playfully tells him to relax, showcasing his flying skills during what would be his final flight as a naval pilot. Meanwhile, in the unforgiving desert, a battered man is left alone to die beneath the relentless sun. Bloodied and bruised, he gathers the last remnants of his strength, beginning to crawl, fueled by the desperate hope of escaping the desert and finding help. A few moments later, Jay and Madero return to their base, still buzzing from their wild flight. To their surprise, a farewell party awaits the retiring soldier. Madero opens a case containing gifts from Jay's old friend, Tiburon Tibey Mendez, which includes 2 Beretta shotguns and an invitation for Jay to visit him in Mexico. Surprised by the invitation, Jay feels a mix of excitement and hesitation as he contemplates whether to accept. His fellow fighters also present him with a Rolex watch as a parting gift. Overcome with emotion, Jay delivers a heartfelt speech, finding it hard to say goodbye to the friends and workplace he's called home for 12 years. A few days later, Jay accepts Tibey's vacation offer, eager for a break from his routine. Excited, he tells Madero he hasn't set a return date yet. As he loads his bags onto the truck with Madero's help, he prepares to leave for Mexico with his dog, Rocky. In Puerto Vallarta, Jay drives through the bustling streets, trying to locate Tibey's place using a confusing handwritten map. Lost, he asks a young lady walking with a horse for directions. The woman surprises him by asking if he's Mr. Cochran. Taken aback, he asks her name and learns she is Mrs. Mendez, Tibey's much younger wife. The coincidence makes him smile. He can't believe he's asking his friend's wife for directions, a strange twist of fate that indicates he is close to his destination. After their brief introduction, the woman tells him to proceed to the first gate on the left. With a smile, Jay thanks her and glances back at her before entering his friend's heavily guarded property. A man smugly greets Jay inside the mansion. At his command, a houseboy attempts to fetch Jay's bags from the truck, but Jay objects, telling the tuxedo-wearing man he plans to find a place by the beach instead. Slightly annoyed as they have a room waiting for him, the man introduces himself as Cesar, Tibey's right-hand man. Later, Jay finds Tibey practicing on his hacienda's tennis court. He playfully teases his friend about his missed shots. With a warm smile, Tibey pulls Jay into a hug, clearly delighted to see his friend again after so long. They then play tennis together, just like in the old times. Exhausted, the two friends return to the patio to eat after the game. Jay presents Tibey with a brown leather pilot jacket as he enjoys the caviar. Grateful, Tibey instantly tries on his gift. Jay also tells Tibey how much he appreciates the guns he received at the retirement party. As Jay prepares to leave for the night, Tibey mentions planning a hunting trip for them the following day to continue bonding. However, the next morning, Jay arrives late at the meeting location. Tibey forgives his tardiness and laughs at Jay's joke about how the hand-drawn map misled him. Just as the hunting group starts toward the woods, Tibey receives an urgent call from a politician named Quiñones. Mrs. Mendez, who stayed inside the car to keep warm, exits the vehicle. Tibey then formally introduces his stunning wife, Miryea, to Jay before answering the call. Suddenly, Tibey's hunting dogs and bodyguards become loud. The commotion prompts Tibey to take the call elsewhere, leading him to reluctantly cancel their hunting trip. Tibey then insists that Jay join them for dinner at his house before he leaves. That night, Tibey's political friends, Ibarra and Diaz, along with their girlfriends, join the dinner party. Ibarra, boasting loudly, tries to insult Jay, but Jay cleverly mocks him instead, irritating the guest. Thankfully, Tibey diffuses the tension by inviting the political men to another room for a private conversation. In their meeting, Ibarra arrogantly informs Tibey that the union rejected his offer and is demanding more money. Angrily, Tibey confronts Ibarra and Diaz, knowing they'll only pocket the money the union demands. He also doesn't appreciate Ibarra's insult toward Jay. Upon Tibey's command, Elefante, one of his goons, shoots Diaz. Ibarra sweats profusely, fearing he's next, and immediately accepts Tibey's offer to work for him, pledging his loyalty to the powerful man. Meanwhile, Jay and Miryea talk about Tibey in the library. She reveals that her father offered her hand in marriage when Tibey rescued him from bankruptcy, but clarifies that despite their arranged marriage, she married Tibey because she was once in love with him. The following morning, Jay and Rocky return from grocery shopping with a bag of lemons and other necessities. To his surprise, Miryea waits happily outside his house. Jay then invites her inside his bungalow and offers to make her lemonade. Surprised by the unexpected visitor, Jay feels a wave of anxiety wash over him as he prepares the drink. Nervous in her presence, he absent-mindedly drops the lemons on the floor and quickly crouches down to pick them up. The woman sees the mishap and immediately helps him gather the rolling lemons. As their eyes meet, Jay and Miryea can't ignore their attraction to one another. Rocky's bark breaks the romantic tension, urging Jay and Miryea to come outside. At the beach, Miryea curiously asks Jay about his previous marriage. After a pause to gather his thoughts, the ex-soldier admits that he was married once but is now divorced. He adds that the separation was likely due to spending more time with fighter planes than with his ex-wife. Suddenly, rain begins to fall. Jay then gently brushes a wet strand of hair from Miryea's face. However, Miryea steps back and insists that she needs to go, trying to hold back the passion building between them. The following night, Tibey hosts a party for Quiñones at his hacienda. Jay attends out of courtesy to his friend, but Cesar notices him glancing too often at Tibey's wife and exchanges a few words with him. Irritated, Jay decides to leave. Tibey, playing the role of a lively party host, takes to the dance floor. Enjoying the music, he removes his jacket and spins it above his head in rhythm with the band. He even dances with other guests and eventually takes off his bow tie. Meanwhile, Jay, who plans to leave the party, is alone in the dimly lit coat room searching for his jacket. Unnoticed, Miryea slips into the room behind him, making sure no one sees her enter. As Jay meets her gaze, he quietly locks the door, both aware they can no longer resist their feelings for each other. Outside, Cesar passes by the coat room and hears the faint click of the lock. He tries to open the door but finds it locked, so he leaves. Moments later, the unspoken tension between Jay and Miryea reaches its breaking point. They come together in a passionate embrace, giving in to the desires they've struggled to resist. As the night wears on, Tibey's dance slows, and he realizes he hasn't seen his wife for a while. Worried, he scans the crowd, but she's nowhere to be found. The next day, Tibey's friends, Barone and Carlos, take on Jay and Tibey in a doubles tennis match. Barone plays unfairly, frustrating Jay, but Tibey calmly asks his friend to let the other team win, as he needs a favor from Barone. In his anger, however, Jay ignores the request and hits the tennis ball forcefully at Barone, striking him. In the distance, Miryea watches closely, her eyes fixed on Jay as he and Tibey win the match fairly. After the game, the friends return to the estate's patio. Tibey shares with Jay that he and Miryea have been arguing lately. The old man then unexpectedly asks Jay if he finds his wife beautiful. Jay's response is dismissive, a simple yes, but the question unsettles him. With a determined look on his face, Tibey vows that he'll do whatever it takes to keep his wife by his side. The declaration weighs heavily on Jay, prompting him to call Madero in California. Accepting his predicament, Jay confesses to his friend that he's fallen in love with Miryea. Madero, concerned for his friend's safety, urges him to leave immediately, knowing the dangers of having an affair in Mexico. Jay hesitates and then ends the call without making any promises. The following day, Tibey conducts a practice shooting session at the hacienda while Jay and Miryea secretly meet at the beach house. Their time together is passionate but filled with risk, as Jay wishes they could escape without Tibey's knowledge. They then decide to plan a secret weekend getaway at Jay's cabin. Unfortunately, Tibey, suspicious of Miryea, listens to a recorded phone call between her and her sister, Isabella. In the conversation, Miryea asks Isabella to cover for her by claiming she's visiting her in Miami if Tibey calls to check her whereabouts. The next day, Tibey arrives at Jay's bungalow wearing a fake smile. Jay feels uneasy but tries to maintain his composure. Tibey asks Jay to fly him somewhere for the weekend as a favor, but Jay declines, explaining that he intends to rest at his cabin instead. Careful with his words, Jay also tries not to reveal the planned romantic getaway. Tibey, seeming to accept Jay's refusal, hands him a ticket to Italy, suggesting he use the opportunity to customize the shotguns he received. Unbeknownst to Jay, the offer serves as Tibey's subtle way of giving him one last chance to walk away from the affair. With a firm handshake and a foreboding goodbye, Tibey leaves. The following morning, Tibey drives Miryea to the airport for her flight to Miami. He hugs her tightly with tears in his eyes. Still unaware that her husband knows the truth about her trip, Miryea laughs lightly, assuring him it's just a short trip. Tibey then leans in, kissing her forehead gently before she enters the airport. Moments later, Jay arrives at the airport, not for his flight to Italy but for his getaway trip with Miryea. The star-crossed lovers meet and share a passionate kiss before heading to the cabin. Overjoyed, the couple can't keep their hands off each other, sharing tender moments by the lake and in the water before finally reaching their cabin with Rocky in tow. That night, a group of men barges in, attacking their hideout as the couple relaxes in the wooden cabin. Rocky barks, trying to warn Jay and Miryea of the approaching danger but is quickly subdued. Jay is kicked and held at gunpoint. At the same time, a henchman restrains Miryea and shines a light on her face so that the approaching man can see her facial features clearly and confirm his suspicion. Tibey reveals himself as the mastermind behind the ambush and angrily strikes his wife for her betrayal. Elefante then powerfully slams Jay to the wall. Still writhing in pain, Ramon, another one of Tibey's goons, hoists the ex-pilot upright as Elefante rains down punches on his body and face. The beaten man falls to the floor only to get kicked repeatedly, putting him in a barely conscious state. Meanwhile, Miryea screams in horror, watching the brutality unfold while still being restrained. Enraged, Tibey then condemns Miryea to a life of servitude at a brothel before striking her across the face. Afterward, Vaquero, Tibey's henchman, drags the bloodied, barely conscious Jay outside, dropping his dog tags. In desperation, Miryea manages to grab one of the dog tags before being carried out of the cabin. Finally, Ramon sets the cabin ablaze as Tibey watches with grim satisfaction. As the sun rises, the goons dump Jay's body on the side of a road. His limp body rolls on the enormous rocks downward toward the desert floor. After, they then drop Miryea off at the brothel. To ensure she doesn't escape, Ramon instructs the madam of the establishment to give her 2 grams of the illicit substance he hands her daily. In the desert, Jay barely hangs on to life, revealed to be the wounded man. Fortunately, Mauro, a kind-hearted man, and his daughter spot Jay in the desert and take pity on him. They load him into their carriage and rush him to their local healer, La Vieja. The old woman immediately attends to Jay's wounds, checking for broken bones and performing rituals to aid his recovery. Meanwhile, the illicit substance injected into Miryea leaves her dazed and mostly unconscious. Thankfully, she meets Antonio, who's tasked with administering her daily medication but becomes a source of friendship in her bleak situation. Weeks pass and Jay finally awakens. With broken bones and a swollen eye, he struggles to walk, but he's alive and recovering. Feeling better, a much stronger Jay returns to his burnt cabin with Mauro. He retrieves the cash he kept under the floorboards and is surprised to find one of his dog tags on the charred floor. Meanwhile, Miryea, despite being visibly weak, still clutches the former aviator's other dog tag for hope. A few days later, after fixing Mauro's truck, the kind man urges Jay to leave the country for his safety, noting that Tibey is currently in Durango where Miryea might be. At the same time, Tibey sits at dinner, discontent with a woman he doesn't love, remaining in the relationship only for political and social appearances. The following morning, Mauro and his daughter drive Jay to town for his train to Durango. As Mauro hands Jay a knife, he spots a sickly Texan struggling to load a horse into his trailer. Without hesitation, he offers to help. Mauro waves goodbye as he drives off, and Jay waves back gratefully. After loading the horse, Jay and the Texan enjoy drinks at the cantina. The cowboy encourages Jay to ride along, explaining that the horse's buyer is also in Durango. To Jay's surprise, Elefante strides into the bar with his entourage. Fortunately, the big man heads to the restroom alone. Seizing the opportunity, Jay quietly follows him inside and swiftly cuts Elefante's throat in revenge. He then hurriedly exits the cantina with the Texan. Meanwhile, Miryea, trapped in the brothel and convinced that Jay is dead, loses all hope. Desperate to escape her life, she asks Antonio to share a needle, intentionally infecting herself with a deadly disease. The next morning, Jay finds the bloodied Texan passed out in his car. The weakened cowboy can no longer travel, so Jay drives him to their destination. Upon delivering the horse stud, Jay recognizes the buyer as Barone, his former tennis opponent. He tries to hide, but Barone spots him as he pays for the horse. Not long after, the Texan passes away peacefully during their journey. Jay takes a moment to honor him, burying the cowboy by the roadside. Barone quickly contacts Cesar to report Jay's presence at the horse sale. Realizing that his former friend has killed Elefante, Tibey begins to piece together the situation. In Durango, Jay uses the money from the horse sale to book a hotel room. While checking in, he encounters Rockstar, a band singer searching for her missing cat, Precious. Exhausted, Jay tries to get some sleep. but is disturbed when Maro's friend and brother-in-law, Amador, knocks on his door. Initially annoyed by the unexpected visit, Jay calms down when Amador reveals that Miryea is alive. Amador offers to help Jay find her, but first asks him to relax and trust him. To unwind, Jay heads to the bar for a drink and runs into Rockstar again. The singer flirts with him as Vaquero, who surprisingly also in the bar tries to win her over. Spotting Vaquero's distinctive fancy boots, Jay realizes he's one of Tibey's henchmen. Later, Jay and Rockstar play cards in his hotel room when Amador returns with his cousin, Ignacio, who will assist them in finding Miryea. Amador reveals that Miryea's in a brothel but doesn't know its location. Frustrated, Jay insists on interrogating Vaquero immediately for the address, but Amador holds him back. Rockstar promises to assist Amador and Ignacio in capturing Vaquero by luring him backstage during their concert. This will allow them, including Jay, to interrogate him. Meanwhile, Ramon takes advantage of the delirious and shivering Miryea. Though weak, she manages to strike him painfully on the shoulder, seeking revenge. That same night, Vaquero finally reveals Miryea's location. Jay initially insists that they rush to the said place immediately, but the three men eventually decide it's best to rescue her when most people are still asleep at dawn. Unfortunately, they arrive too late as she's no longer at the brothel. Even the madam of the establishment doesn't know where the woman has been moved despite interrogating and bribing her with money. A short while later, Tibey's goons deliver the weakened Miryea to a convent for hospice care as her health declines rapidly. Tibey returns from his afternoon ride to the hacienda and confronts Ramon, who boasts about his plans to kill Miryea. Anger wells up in Tibey as he listens to Ramon's claims. He asserts that she's still his wife and deserves respect. With a determined look, he orders Resabio, his new bodyguard, to shoot Ramon. The next day, Jay learns from Ignacio that Miryea is in poor health. Desperate, he knows he must confront Tibey to find her. Jay, Amador, and Ignacio wait patiently for Tibey on his usual morning riding trail. The two cousins hide in the bushes to ambush him while Jay sits under a tree, acting as bait. As Tibey and his bodyguard approach, Ignacio shoots Resabio in the chest. Unfazed, Tibey confronts Jay alone, holding a pistol while the three men aim their shotguns at him. Despite the tense standoff, Tibey lowers his weapon, still wearing the jacket that Jay had gifted him. He looks at Jay and asks if he's humble enough to seek forgiveness for his betrayal. With tears in his eyes, Jay apologizes for having an affair with his wife. In response, Tibey reveals that Miryea is in a convent in Morito. Afterward, the three men leave Tibey unharmed and hurry to the convent. A few minutes later, Jay stands before a weakened, bedridden Miryea. He kisses her gently, telling her he loves her before carrying her outside at her request. Miryea responds softly, saying she loves him too, before slipping away in his arms. The ex-pilot's dog tag, which she clutched for hope, falls from her hand with a soft clink as her strength finally fades.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.